Hey, how's it going? If you're new here, my name is Jan and I love makeup. And if you're not new, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate you. I know I'm looking a little bit crazy. I'm working on 2 videos at one time and I didn't want to lose any of my thoughts, so I figured I would just start this now instead of at the end when my face is all done and I won't know if I've said all the things or not. So a subscriber of mine has been asking me for some help and advice when it comes to applying some of her base products. And I'm not an expert. I just really like makeup. I do a lot of research about it. I watch a lot of videos. I read all the things. So I feel like I know some stuff. And so far, the suggestions I've made have been really helpful for her. But she asked me if I could do like a full video. She said she is a visual learner, and though she can read what I'm writing, you know, it's sometimes easier just to see somebody do the things that you're trying to explain. And so I said, I would love to do that. So this video is probably not going to be for everybody, but maybe there's bits and pieces that you can take away from it. I don't know. I just really want to be helpful. And she asked me specifically, so that's what I'm doing today. Hopefully you're up for that. If that sounds like fun for you, stick around. We're going to get into it. First, I should say that I don't have dry skin. I have psoriasis, which is currently under control thanks to the CosRx snail mucin. I used to have very, very dry skin, and about 2-ish years ago, my skin just decided that it was noping out of being dry and going to go full-on oily in my T-zone. So the rest of my skin is pretty normal, except for my T-zone, which is oily. So my friend said that her skin is dry. She's a bit older than me, roughly 20 years. So there's a significant difference. But what I've come to understand is that the older we get, sometimes our skin dries out. And she has been a huge fan of the IT Cosmetics, like CC BB cream thingies. And she asked if that's something I could use, or if I knew anybody who could, because she has a lot of it. And I said, well, don't get rid of it just yet. I have heard, I've never done it because, again, oily, but, and I'm always really careful about prepping my face before makeup. Anyway, you can mix your moisturizer with your foundation. So I have the e.l.f. Camo CC creams. I have 2 because one is my summer shade and one is a mixer. So I thought I would use these in lieu of the IT, because they are dupes. From what I've heard from like everybody, they're pretty much the same. So I thought I would mix that with the daily moisturizer that I use. This is the CosRx Propolis Light Cream. Love, love, love this. It's not very heavy, so if you are very, very dry, perhaps something a bit more hydrating would be good. But I'm gonna go with this and we're gonna try this out. I've never done this, I just know you can. And even if you have oily skin, you still need hydration. I moisturize morning and night, every single day, no matter what. So I've got about that much out on this little spatula thingy. I'm gonna use maybe half, because that was too much. I just put it on my little mixing tray thingy. And then I'm going to add my foundation to it. Hopefully you have one and it works beautifully. I'm going to mix both of these colors so I get one that matches my skin. I will say I am 100% not a fan of this packaging. This pump is incredibly difficult for me to pump out. So I just made a giant mess on my hand. Let me clean that up. So I pumped out about that much of the darker shade, and I'm gonna go in with about that much of the lighter shade. And I'm going to stir, 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 and mix them together, and then I'll come back and we'll see. Hopefully it's the right shade for me, and then we can apply it together in the way I thought would work best for her and me. All right, it's all mixed together and I think it's going to work. So I'm just going to smear the spatula on my face. Normally I would have primed my skin my T-zone with the Danessa Myricks balm powder thingy, but for today we're not going to. I do, however, need a brush. Okay, so I prefer applying my foundation. I go back and forth. Some foundations work better with a sponge, some are better with a brush. I like using a brush, and I actually like using a much smaller brush. I think it can help you really focus on not applying too much product. So I'm just going to start by blending this out. And I think the color is going to work. And I don't think the moisturizer changed the consistency. Just with a little bit more of the foundation. I think it blended really nicely. I'm avoiding my under eyes because as we get older, the wrinkles start coming in hot and heavy, and the less product you put under your eyes, the better. So I'm avoiding my under eyes. Now, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, you're gonna have brush strokes all over your face, fear not. I always, always, always go back over the foundation with a dampened sponge because, well, two reasons. It does help with absorbing any excess product, and it will help with the brush strokes. What is that? So I'm just gonna finish blending this out all over, and then I'll come back and we'll do some more. Okay, this is where we are at the moment. It's not looking great, but it's all over. So I'm gonna take my damp sponge and I'm just going to press. I'm not going to swipe or buff. I'm just going to really kind of pat everywhere I put the foundation. I'm going to deal with my neck in just a minute. Don't panic. So just pressing it in. So now we have pretty light coverage. I think as we age, the heavier the coverage, the more textured the skin can look, which happens with me even at 45. Like, there are some products that just do not look good, where I tend to have more texture, wrinkles, looser skin, all of the things. So that's done, and I still have a fair amount on my palette. So I'm gonna take the brush again and get some on there and just go back over the areas where I want a little bit more coverage. Not like a crazy concealer amount, just a little more. And with my sponge, I'm just gonna press that in. Okay, I think it's looking pretty nice. Like, in the mirror, it looks like my skin, just a little bit more evened out. So I'm gonna go off camera, use what's left on my brush and my palette and drag it down my neck, because as you can see, my neck is a completely different color and we want that to be the same. So I'm gonna do that real quick and then I'll be right back. Okay, this is where we are. I'm gonna zoom you in for a much too up close look at my skin. Okay, so you can see I still have discoloration, hyperpigmentation, all the things, a little red thing. This is where concealer comes in, because we have a nice thin layer. We don't want to pile on so much that it starts to look oogie, but maybe still want to cover some stuff. So I have my Wet n Wild Mega Last Incognito Concealer. This one is very close to my skin tone. So I'm just gonna put a little dot over the specific areas I want to cover. I pretty much do this always, because I can't wear a lot of product on my face. It doesn't look good. I'm 45. Like, gravity's taken its toll, and I have to accommodate that. So I'm gonna leave those spots for a minute. Now, if you have dark under eyes, which I really don't, I mean, I look ill, but that's just the difference in the colors. So you would go in with just, I'll use my concealer. It's just a slightly lighter version of what I just used. You could go in with the tiniest bit of a color corrector. If you're dark, you want peach, and that will help. I actually did buy one of the e.l.f. camo color correctors, and I gave that to my friend because I thought it would be helpful for her, and she was really liking it. But I did order another one because though I don't necessarily need it, it would be nice to have for if I do or for days like this. So now I'm just going to take my concealer brush and I'm going to press it in. There's no dragging, no tugging, just pressing. Just like that. So now we're going to go in with what would be the concealer. So I would take it down a little lower and out here, because you want to avoid like the super wrinkly parts. And then I'm going to put some all the places where I like to highlight. Did I grab the wrong one? I did. Okay. Darn, darn, darn. Now, with the right shade, I'm just going to add a little bit more. You wouldn't normally use this much, but I messed up. So, and because my smile lines are pretty prominent, I just add a little there. Now, yeah, sure, I can tell you how to do it completely wrong. Okay, so now we're just, again, pressing that in, and I'm going to take it up over where your color corrector would be if you were using it. And then I do angle it up out here because I want to kind of lift that part of my face, or the illusion of lifting it, really. And then just pressing on the under eye. If you have a velour poof, that works really well too, which I should have grabbed but didn't think of it until just now. And I'm going to blend out the concealer around the rest of my face. I'm just pressing it on my nose because that's where I have a hard time getting product to sit the way I want it to. I have heard that using an eye primer really helps with the nose issue, so I feel like I might be giving that a whirl one of these days. Pressing, pressing, pressing. Do my little spots. Just blending it in a little bit. Again, not dragging, just pressing. And then back over everything with the sponge. It does the exact same thing for concealer as it does for foundation. Absorbs any excess and gets rid of any brush strokes. So now I have a bit more coverage without adding too much more product. If you have very dry skin, you probably want to avoid powdering too much. I avoid powdering my under eyes, but I do powder my T-zone because I'm an oily skin type. I'm gonna do that real quick and I will be right back. Okay, I powdered the T-zone areas where I get super oily. So I'm gonna take a big fluffy brush and just dip into my powder just a little, nothing too wild and crazy. And then just gently tap that around my face. That will just help set the foundation without, you know, causing too much dryness on your skin if you do have drier skin. And of course, I avoid powder on my under eyes. With this particular concealer, it really doesn't crease too much. It creases the tiniest bit, but then I can just tap over it with my finger and the creasing is gone. If you set it, you set the creases. They're not going anywhere. The other thing she asked me about was how to look not dead in the dead of winter. You know, just once you've blinked out your whole face and covered up the stuff you want to cover up, then what do you do? For me, it's always, you know, blush, bronzer, highlighter, all of those things. But if you want to do like the bare minimum, I thought I could show you here what I think would work. So at this point, I would contour my face, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to do bronzer, and I'm going to use the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Bronzer in the shade 350 Medium. This is an excellent bronzer. If you're my shade, this is a great color, but there are lots. And so I start back here, kind of the top of my ear, and I keep it back. I don't bring it forward too far because that can bring your face down. And that is the last thing we want to do is, you know, help gravity make us look like it's been a day. And then I do up here because I like to look like I've been outside, you know, maybe skiing or snowshoeing or something lovely that people do in the wintertime outdoors. Something I have never done. We can pretend, right? That's fun. And then I just make sure that's blended. But I also, I want it to be noticeable because that's just how I roll. And then if you've got some extra pounds, you can always put a little under your chins, your jawbone, give the illusion of less treats. I think another really big thing is blush. Not everyone does, and if you don't, that's totally cool. I'm not judging. But if this isn't your first video here, you know I'm a pretty big fan of clown blush. Like, I like a lot. So I thought we'd go in with the Milani Cheek Kiss. Trying to keep it all like affordable because that that's a factor these days. Like, life is expensive, just, you know, the day-to-day things. So if we don't need to spend a ton of money on makeup, oh, why would we? So I have my blush brush. I just cleaned it off. And I'm going to dip into the Milani blush. And again, starting in the back, because wherever you put your brush first is where you're going to get the most pigment. So I like to start back here, and I always do the tip of my nose. And this one I do bring in a little because a blush on your cheeks is, well, it's lovely. It makes you look younger, it makes you look rosy and healthy, you know, just makes you look younger, all the things. It's not the be all end all to look young, but it does look healthy. I, quite frankly, am not minding the aging process. Like, those of us fortunate enough to get old, we're lucky. So, and obviously, like, you don't have to wear as much blush as I do. You don't have to put it on your nose. I just like it. I think it's fun. But it does add quite a bit to your face. That's that I can think of. I'm, of course, going to go in with highlighter and lipstick and finish up my lower lash line for the other video. But let me know in the comment section if this was helpful at all, if there's anything else you'd like to see from me. Again, so not an expert. I only know what works for me, what works for people that I know. You know, like, I'm not a professional at anything. Maybe nag. I think I could be a professional nag. But hopefully this was helpful and you enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Either way, I appreciate hanging out with me today. Be good and remember to be kind to you.